Hola, hola a todos. I hope you're doing well. My name is Estrellita, and I'm a first-generation Latina college and postgrad coach that supports first-generation college students and graduates through higher education paths and postgrad opportunities. Now, I hope you're doing well today. I know I am. I'm excited for this video, even though you all know I'm always excited for every video. But this one, we're gonna cut right to the chase. Asking for a letter of recommendation. Now, the reason why this is so important is because as a first generation student and you're navigating all these academic and professional spaces to help you grow and succeed as much as possible. So at some point, you're gonna need a reference, a letter of rec for whatever it is that will help you. But don't worry, we're gonna talk about all of it. All right, numero uno. So who should you ask for a letter of recommendation? And ideally, you want to ask your professors. Now, with this professor, you want to make sure you have taken at least 1 or 2 classes with them because you want to make sure they have context to provide in your letter of recommendation so it comes off so strong. Ideally, you also want to make sure you get a B or higher in the class and that you participate, attend office hours. You want to make sure that you help that professor help you. It can also be a professor that you've worked with on projects or research. And working on research with professors could be anything from volunteering in their lab, TAing. I also say TAing based on your campus system. For example, when I was in community college and I was taking my psychology research methods course, my professor at the time, he had a teacher assistant. Now, an example on how you can work on a project with your professor that isn't research focused is by an example I'm going to share with you based on one of my clients from the Cafecito con Estrellita membership. So one of my clients, when she was in undergrad, she was super involved on campus and worked with her professor and other students to start an initiative to have accessible food available to students. So think of it as a food pantry. And because their campus didn't have a food pantry yet, my client and her peers, as well as her professor, starting that on their campus was a huge game changer, not only for the student community, but also for herself professionally to put on her CV and resume. So again, you want to make sure that you ask the professor that you have worked with at a certain capacity and have taken 1 to 2 classes with. And make sure you at least get a B in their class. All right, numero dos. Why ask? Why even ask a professor for a letter of rec? What are you going to need it for? And that, now when you are applying to scholarships, academic grants, fellowships, any sort of funding that can go back to support your studies, your research, your application for those opportunities are going to need letters of recommendation. Not just any letters of recommendation, they're gonna need some strong written letters of recommendation. So in order for you to have a really strong chance of being awarded these types of funds, you need that strong letter of rec, and the only way your professor could write you that strong letter of rec is if you help them help you by you going to their office hours, taking 1 to 2 classes with them and getting B's or higher, and working alongside them, whether it's through projects on your campus or research. Another reason why you want to be able to ask for letters of recommendation is to pursue advanced studies, whatever that may look like, whether it's a credential program, master's program, MBA program, PhD, all that. And for a lot of advanced studies programs, you need letters of recommendation. And if you're applying to internships, you most likely may need a letter of recommendation. Now, there are internships that just ask for references, but it's always good to be as prepared as possible. And if you come across an awesome internship opportunity that is super aligned with your future career endeavors, and it needs a letter of rec turned in from a professor, you want to make sure you do what you can to put in the work to connect with faculty, really get to know them so that you can apply to these opportunities. And that's why it's important to ask for letters of recommendation so that you have as many opportunities as you can to take advantage of funding, professional experiences, as well as getting into advanced study programs. Número tres, how far in advance should you ask? Now, honestly, this is a case-by-case basis. So for one of my professors who wrote my letters of recommendation was my advisor for my senior honors thesis. Now, this was during the time I was applying to master programs, and because I was trying to get in right after undergrad, which I was able to do so, my application materials were due in a month and a half. One of my professors was totally fine with the month and a half timeline, but my advisor, she was kind about it, but she did share with me that typically when a student is asking for a letter of recommendation from a professor, it's important to ask at least 3 months in advance, because a lot of the times professors from four-year universities are constantly working on research, other projects, they have their classes and so many other obligations. And yes, they are there to support students, but they also need a manageable timeline to make that happen. After my advisor had shared that, she then proceeded, but don't worry, I will write your letter of recommendation because I understand and I want you to get into grad school. But from now on, make sure you ask well in advance, at least 3 months. And again, it's super understandable because professors have so much on their plate. All right, mi gente, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I genuinely hope you found this helpful because I'm not gonna lie, I know asking for a letter of recommendation can feel super intimidating, especially if you are a gap year student, meaning that you graduated with your degree and then a year, maybe even 2 years later, that's when you follow up with your undergrad professors to request a letter of rec for graduate school or whichever program you want to do afterward. But again, a lot of the time, these professors, they want to help you. Just again, work alongside with them and let them know in advance your request. Remember, the worst thing that they can say is no, and then you just strategize a new plan from there. If you haven't already, please make sure you like and comment on this video. It would mean the world. As well as subscribe to the channel so we could keep growing the Cafecito con Estrellita YouTube channel. And if you're seeking more one-on-one and community-based support, please check out the Cafecito con Estrellita membership. I will be linking it down below. Cuídense y hablamos pronto. Adiós.